I was in London. Holy crap, Dave, is that you? I think that's that we all collectively have felt like Dave as investors in junior mining shares these last several years. I sent that out to friends and they all responded, glad you sent that anyway. Just I always like to have a little humor in things. So 10 years ago, I gave a talk at the Las Vegas Money Show about gold is money, everything else is credit. This is the quote that J.P. Morgan gave in 1912 when he was asked by Congress what money was. And the congressman was trying to describe what was credit as money, and J.P. Morgan just stopped him and said, gold is money, everything else is credit. And collectively, the world, I don't think, really understands what that means. And so I was trying to take the time historically in this conference. At the Vegas conference, we get a lot more time to talk, and so I gave the history of it. And it was well received, and I told people, I said, look, you don't need to worry about this so much now because the economy was still functioning, the Fed still had control, and things were still moving along. And, I said, but you need to understand this because we're coming to a time when this is going to be a big deal. And I said I would give this talk again when I thought we were at that moment, that inflection point. Well, that moment is here. And I don't know if Scott Gibson's in the office. He happened to be sitting in the back at that Vegas Money Show and came up to me and surprised me, and I think, Scott, we went to lunch, I think, after that. Anyway, this talk is really that talk, but just trying to help people understand what I believe is about to hit. So we've often heard this at our conferences. Again, people kind of listen to it, but I don't think they fully understand it. Doug Casey always used this. I don't know who was the originator of this. Joe, do you know? I mean, where that came from? Yeah. Rick Rule has quoted this. Doug quoted it quite often. Gold is the only asset that is not simultaneously someone else's liability. And when J.P. Morgan was saying gold is money, everything else is credit, and he says everything else is credit. And, what is that? This liability that he's talking about. That liability, it's an obligation, it's a debt, or in modern times now it's even become a derivative of some asset. So you think it's an asset, but reality, it has some negative obligation, debt, or derivative attached to it. And when times are fine, everything can be okay and no one notices. But when credit collapses, this is the problem. This is when it's going to be great for some of us in precious metals, in the mining shares and in physical metals. It's going to be wonderful, but it's going to be terrifying in other ways for other people. So in my view, credit will collapse in this coming storm, this crescendo of events that's happening. It's not just one or two things or markets, it's the whole kit and caboodle worldwide. We see what's going on in the U.S., and obviously there's great concern there. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But personally, I believe physical gold, silver, platinum coins and bars in your possession will be the last men standing as credit ceases and the world comes to grips with what is real money. And to show you a little bit, I can't go into the history that I gave at the Money Show back then, but I just kind of consolidated it real quick. It's not go in this too far, but in everybody's common law worldwide, going back thousands of years, gold, silver, and copper are money. Everything else is credit. And the history of money, gold, silver, and copper goes back 549 BC. The common law 12 tablets explain the difference between what money is, real money, and what credit is. The inheritors of the Roman Empire during Justinian's reign, 550 AD, they had these common law principles of what money was: gold, silver, copper. 1592, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Spain, common law. What's money? Gold, silver, copper. in the U.S. Constitution. Gold, silver, copper is money, okay? This has been set in common law for a very, very, very long time. And just last year, the Bank of International Settlements announced that gold is a tier 1 asset, meaning it's the ultimate form of money to them, the people who run the world, okay? Now, they don't talk about silver and copper. They look at those as industrial metals, but I think anybody who's betting against silver as a precious metal is gonna lose big time. Silver has been suffering for a long time. Gold is run, but silver has not played catch up yet. It will. And I'll talk a little bit later on why I think silver is about to do its breakout. There's some news some things that we've been piecing together as to why silver's been held back so much and why now the time this could change dramatically. So I guess the other question is, how much faith do you have in any fiat currency worldwide at this point? As Joe mentioned, gold is going up against most currencies in the world. And to see gold running and to see our mining stocks sitting where they are, it's very frustrating. I don't know if you listened to Eric Sprott's recent interview. I haven't seen him in an interview lately, but about 2 weeks ago, he gave an interview and was just expressing his frustration. He was like, hey, 2 + 2 is 4, but in the system, it's 2 + 2 is -50. He says, it's so frustrating. You know, you could just see the frustration in his voice and in his speech. But this fiat currency experiment that the world has been under and has been able to get away with for so long has blessed all of us, okay? But fiat, meaning backed by nothing, okay? It's in the U.S. Constitution. You can have a paper money. The founding fathers of the United States set it up so that, yeah, paper money is fine as long as you back it with gold. Why was that? Because during the Revolutionary War times, they had the Continental dollar, which was an absolute fiat currency disaster. And history shows the records are dismal. The fiat currencies, the dustbin of history, all these fiat currencies always go back to zero. All right? And so why do we think we're different in modern times? Right? This is part of the credit thing that I'm going to describe here in a little bit. So look at the data that's coming out on the news from government. It's totally bogus data on just about everything, employment numbers, inflation, et cetera. I don't need to go into it. You know what I'm talking about. Any media that doesn't go along with the government narrative is caught out of loop, so they have to go along with it. That's why the news is so full of nonsense, just utter nonsense. Lord George Canning in 1828 said the following: I can prove anything with statistics except one thing, the truth. Just the nature of statistics, anybody can manipulate statistics to get whatever they want, and governments do such a good job of that. Lord George Canning later became prime minister for a year in 1828. I think he did this quote in 1824, but became prime minister in 1828. What we're seeing is world governments are in a classic debt trap. Okay, let's take the United States, but it's not just the United States, it's Japan, it's China, it's Western Europe, it's all over. The dynamics of a debt trap is when you get an increase in the cost of the debt in the form of interest rates that increase at a rate faster than the GDP growth. Well, in the United States, we're there. We are there in a big way. And, it's almost frightening when you really drill down into the real data and stop listening to the nonsense on the news. So from my perspective, this crisis inflection point is near. This is good news for us as mining companies because 2 weeks ago I was in London, and last week I was at the Beaver Creek Precious Metals Summit, which in my view is the most important conference I go to every year because it's meeting with and getting a feel for the appetite of the major funds of the world. Some of these funds manage hundreds of billions. There's one fund there, I don't know if they were there this year, but last year they managed 1.2 trillion. That's $1,200 billion under management, okay? 1,000 of these type of people are walking around at the conference, and they're the ones that drive our market. When when they come into this market, all the boats float. First, it goes to, like Joe's saying, that the producers, to the companies with all the great assets that are undervalued, and it trickles eventually right down to the juniors. All the boats float, and I think we're close now to that. I don't know if you saw today, a company that I've followed since inception, Vizsla Silver, had 12 million shares trade today. That's exciting. Something's going on. We're starting to see these better companies, the ones with the defined assets that are trading at ridiculously low levels, suddenly are jumping up this week. And I could tell you from Beaver Creek last week, I came away thinking, oh man, we're getting close now. And then to see this volume this week, those are the things that connect the dots. This looks like the turn could start to happen for us. We've been optimistic in the past that the market was going to turn, but this looks different now. This looks real to me, and I think by year end, early next year, we could be in a very favorable space, making money again. So there was an obvious appetite by these fund managers that wasn't there in past years, and as I'll introduce Brad Rourke, President and CEO of Scotty Resources. He was there. I saw him. He said he couldn't get in any more meetings. He was packed, right? And everybody, all the mining companies I talked to were like that. So that's very different. And that's telling us something. We have to pay attention to those things because, again, these are the people that drive our market. So the bottom may finally be behind us, and seeing more and more of these companies that are, trading big volume, boy, that's really positive for us. Oops, let me go back one there. Did I skip one? Yeah. So yeah, I just see a crescendo of events appears to be reaching its climax. And what does this mean? This means that there's great opportunity to make money if you're smart enough to get into the metals, the physical metals. I'm a guy on the investment pyramid of risk. I'm at the very pinnacle as a newsletter writer trading junior mining stocks. Okay, high risk, high reward. We don't always win, but as a newsletter writer trading juniors, I've always felt like when we have a great bear like I did, great bear hits, hey, I'm a rock star. The next year, I'm a gutter rat because I haven't made any money for people. So it's a tough. The vicissitudes of being a newsletter writer can be very challenging, very daunting, and you have to learn how to roll with it, the ups and downs. But I see this collection of events, the culture, the cultural insanity, the financial insanity, the government lies and corruption, the whole thing. It's just all coming to it's been going like this, coming to a peak for a long time. And many of us thought it could have collapsed earlier, but it doesn't seem like there's any way around it now. You look at this whole situation with Russia and Ukraine and NATO and the dialogue going back and forth. I mean, are you people for real? We're talking nuclear exchange? It's hard to believe they're having these kind of conversations without the people. I mean, nobody wants a war. And then I don't know if you heard about Russia just sent some of their top technology that scrambles communications. It's a very sophisticated thing that it's new for them. They just sent one of these units over to Iran. And what it does, it has an incredible ability to anybody in the area that's trying to communicate, it scrambles it 5,000 kilometers away from the machine. And it undoes Israel's Iron Dome, meaning that they could be open to attack by missile from Iran. And the other thing it does is we have two carrier fleets and the U.S. has two carrier fleets in the Mediterranean, and the Russians know that they could send jets into Russia from there very easily. So it negates all the U.S. communication. So, I mean, some of these things are just like, what? What is talking about? Well, Ray Dalio and Martin Armstrong and Alistair MacLeod, these are all top thinkers that understand how the world works, and they're all saying the same thing. They're pointing out that this just isn't sustainable anymore. So I'm not a gloom and doom person. I always hope for the best, but I prepare for the worst. And so what do? I always say own physical precious metals, take delivery. Protect them from fire and theft yourself. Don't use a safety deposit box. I have a billionaire client at Amerigold.com. I told him not to put it in a safety deposit box. He bought his gold for like somewhere around 500, 600. This was in the early 2004, 5, when gold was that low still. And I told him, don't put it in a safety deposit box. Just store it at home. I'll teach you how to do that. And he said, yeah, I'll leave it there for now. We had a break-in at the house. I'll take care of it. Well, he never did. I get a call from him like in 2011. Hey, can I get my receipt for what I purchased? I said, well, yeah, sure. What's going on? He said, well, I didn't listen to you. And we went down to get our gold, to check on our gold, because some friends of ours had some high net worth jewelry in the Wells Fargo bank there. And they went to get it and it was gone. And the bank said, well, you must have taken it. And they knew they didn't take it. So my clients went down there, opened theirs up, nothing there, right? So this guy's a billionaire. He didn't steal it from himself. He's, anyway, long of the story was during 2008, the banks themselves were opening safety deposit boxes, selling the contents to meet their Federal Reserve requirements. And so, he got his money back, but he only got what he paid for the gold, which was far less than what it was worth at that point. So he really got cheated out of millions of dollars, and he had to sign a thing that he could never talk about it with the media or with anybody, right? Well, it is what it is, right? Think for yourself, do what you think's best, but I always recommend don't trust the banks. I don't trust the government anymore. I don't never really trusted the government, but at this point, the lies, the deception, basically the corruption and the criminal activity is beyond belief. So own the undervalued junior mining shares if you're choosing. Keep the ones that already have defined assets or royalty income at the top of your list you want to buy. We're coming to that time again when all the boats are going to float, so that's the exciting part. And last chance to adopt the be prepared mindset, because what it means when the credit collapses, credit seizes, everything operates off credit. So the bread truck, the baker that bakes the bread, and the bread truck that has to deliver it to the store, all that shuts down. We work off a just-in-time 3-day inventory system. The trucking industry has been warning about this for years on their website. And they said the supply chain will break down during a credit seizure. And so there's some dire things that could happen under those circumstances. And precious metals, I think, will be the last men standing. And so there's an opportunity there with our precious metal mining shares as well. So personally, I got a minute and a half left here. I'm most bullish on gold, silver, copper, uranium. I'm not going to go into it. I have more slides, but just with uranium, tremendous volume today in uranium stocks. I think CCJ traded 27 million shares. All the big uranium companies were trading, tens of millions of shares. So uranium is in a bull market, but it's unlike the 2006 bull market. You have to pay attention more to the long-term contract price of uranium than the spot price like we did back in 2006. So, and copper, I think, is the supply-demand situation there, Joe, you probably agree, that's coming to a head. Something's got to give there, because a lot of these copper mines have exhausted, and there's no, with all the permitting times, it's getting harder and harder to get new mines operational. And I believe copper could be $20 a pound before this is all said and done. So there's great opportunity there. And when, we'll see. We'll just see how that turns out. But, what's coming in gold will be much higher in price and much longer in duration than most investors think or understand. The Dow and 1 ounce of gold will meet again. Where shall the two meet? 10,000, 20,000, 40,000? I can promise you, before this is over, 1 share of the Dow and 1 ounce of gold will be equal. The opportunity is in precious metals right now, folks. Thank you for listening.